Good morning, everyone. It's very sobering to listen to the news from the different countries. And we are talking about human-elephant conflict and coexistence, but each country is facing different challenges and all, and that's really very sobering. I hope all goes well for you and your project. Thank you so much for your sharing. Yeah. So for today, I'm not going to give the overall context about my project and what we do. Instead, I'm going to zoom in and focus on our engagement with the private sector. I'm from Malaysia. I'm a lecturer at University of Nottingham, Malaysia, and I work closely with the Department of Wildlife and National Parks and also with the large plantations in my research project. So one of my collaborators from the plantations is here, Aida, in the crowd. Would you like to wave, Aida? So in my project, what we identify as an issue due to the competition for space. So we have protected areas, but we cannot protect all the areas for elephants because recognizes elephants usually will go out of protected areas and into agricultural land. So we have published a couple of papers on this, looking at how elephants are using agricultural land as part of their home range. So recognizing that elephants are not staying inside protected areas, they are venturing out and they have large home ranges, 200 kilometers square, 300 kilometers square. So we have no choice but to work with everyone in the landscape. That's why I try as much as possible to pull in the large plantations to be part of the partners for the project, because underneath each of these plantations, they have multiple estates on the ground. So we started off with a few, Sime Darby Plantation, IOI Plantation, and from there we expand to more plantations. We have FELDA and FGV. So FELDA and FGV is a very interesting organization. So they are FELDA is started with the objective of alleviating poverty in Malaysia after World War II and after independence. So they have the small settlers scheme. So all these communities, they have like an office to help manage them, to support them in their agriculture efforts. And of course, when they face human-elephant conflict, then the plantations, the office itself will try to support the community in the sense that making sure they have an allowance so they can continue surviving from month to month. But in that sense, we recognize that if the area is a conflict area, it's very difficult to grow any oil palm or other crops on that land. So right now, what FELDA is doing is experimenting with alternative crops, plants that elephants don't eat so much. And they're also experimenting with exchanging plots. Maybe if this smallholder happened to have bad luck and gotten this plot where elephants often come in, they will try to swap it with another land where there's less conflict. But overall, through our engagement with all these large plantations and also these organized smallholders, we recognize that the large plantations actually have a lot of knowledge. We recognize their experience in tackling human-elephant conflict since the 1980s and so on and so forth. You name it, whatever mitigation measures out there, they have tried it. Yeah. And they have the manpower, they have teams dedicated looking at all these issues. So we thought working with the plantations is a great way to scale up our effort across a large landscape, recognizing that in that states we have about, of state of Johor, that's my study site, we have about 120 to 150 elephants. So moving forward from there, we started pulling in more and more plantations. and we signed a memorandum of collaboration. So in the memorandum of collaboration, we outline the responsibilities of each entity. So for my team, we act as the secretariat. We organize the meetings, we organize workshops. For the plantations, they will bear the cost of whatever effort that's carried out on their plantation. Well, we also bring in some non-profits. So the non-profits will try to help us breach the gap between areas outside of plantation to forest reserves. Yeah. And through our engagement with the plantations, we recognize that they have a lot of potential to work, to collaborate with us on all these efforts. But getting the buy-in from the top level is not sufficient, because we still have the middle management and we still have the people on the ground who is thinking, I don't want to have elephants behind my backyard. Yeah, because there's a lot of complications, a lot of problems that comes with having elephants as neighbors, right? So what we did is, we then embarked on a series of engagement, and we have 2 large workshops, one last year and one this year. And we are very glad that by the second workshops, the people on the ground, the estate managers, are starting to warm up to us and are willing to support us in our camera trapping work. And we did a problem tree exercise with them, where everyone can get to have a chance to state down what are their issues with coexisting with elephants, what are their concerns, what are their worries, and then we then lay out this problem into a tree, which we then flip it around to become an objective tree for the project. So in the next few years, what do we want to focus on? So we recognize that the main issue for that landscape is the problem with space. Yeah, human and elephant are competing for space, and the landscape is fragmented. The elephants cannot move freely from one forested area to the other forested area. Hence, they have to pass through villages, they have to go through industrial areas. So these are the reports we receive as well, yeah, from the members of public through the Wildlife Department hotline. So by the end of the workshop, everyone agrees that if you want to tackle conflict, crop raiding and things like that, property damage and all, we also have some concerns about human life and injuries. The numbers are low, but because of the number of cases people are reporting elephants going into housing areas, we are concerned that the numbers could go up in future. So what can we do to try to manage all this is we would like to create safe passages for the elephants, and this we need the collaboration with the large plantations, with the forestry department, with the wildlife department, and with the support of the state government. Yes, so the plantation managers, although some of them are still not fully supportive, like having elephants as neighbors, but at least everybody agrees that this is the way forward, this is the way we should try. Because if we don't work together, the conflict is going to get worse, the problem is going to become bigger every year. But if all the plantations are willing to work together with the government agencies, then there is a chance for us to move towards a more positive solution. So through the workshops as well, we also developed some safety posters and protocols. So we actually have protocols that companies can bring into their daily operations, yeah, to try to increase safety for their staff on the ground. We recognize the need to attract elephants to areas with less people. Of course, if we can conserve the existing pathway, that's good, but if the pathway is too near to the villages, maybe we need to try to see how we can adjust it. Some experiments with that. It's very new, but we thought we should try to give it a try and see. So with all these safety protocols and agreement to move forward with all the corridors, we recognize that the pathway to coexistence is going to be long, but having the buy-in of the plantations, I feel it is a very good positive step forward. Yeah, for often private sectors, there's been a clear boundary. Okay, agriculture is focusing on agriculture, food production, and conservation folks focus on elephants and in protected areas. But with this agreement to work together, we are hoping that engagement with the agriculture sector, getting them to be more open about collaborating with conservation. And the oil palm industry is actually one of the most scrutinized industry in the world. And they suffer a huge amount of damage in terms of palm, yeah, because elephants love to eat palm. But for them to say, yes, we want to work on this together, I think it attributes to quite a number of factors. A lot of these oil palm plantation companies have certifications, and they are open to work with NGOs and also research organizations. And by getting everyone on board, what we are creating is a situation where other plantations are starting to see, hey, these folks are all in this program. Maybe we should consider to be part of this program as well. It's become, hopefully, like a social norm for the industry to be a part of this, be part of this effort. Yeah. So, for a very long time, the agriculture sectors regard elephants as pests, crop pests. But hopefully, with this effort, working with them on standard operating procedures, looking at ways to increase safety, and getting them involved in creating the corridors and the food banks for elephants, what we hope is in the long run, the oil palm industry can then pave the way for the other agriculture users in the landscape. We have rubbers, we have cattle ranchers, we have a lot more agriculture sectors out there that we need to influence and bring them on board. This is a case study I wanted to share with everyone today. It's short and sweet, just focusing on the plantation companies. But I hope this opens up the floor for conversations in this area. So thank you very much for your attention. Any questions? I'm happy to take them. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Wong. Questions? Yes, Loki.
I was wondering about the, I know that there's been some talk about having some of the oil palm plantations certified as kind of elephant friendly, and then some of the oil palm product was able to get a higher price. Have you heard about those efforts?
That is, I think, is a long-term goal. Right now, oil palm plantations, they do have certifications. They have RSPO, and we also have the Malaysian standards, MSPO. But a lot of this certification often looks at control of pollution, control of erosion, things like that. To be able to have an elephant-friendly certified, we need to set the guidelines, the standards, and then we need to have the independent assessor who go to the plantation and then assess all these things. But I would say it is a long-term goal that the industry can work towards too. Yeah.
Thank you. This lady here.
If palm oil industry has increased the conflict with the elephants as it's monoculture, and perhaps they can't find anymore their food and things like that, does it increase the conflict with elephant, the palm oil industry?
Okay, right now, the oil palm industry experiences a high amount of costs. Loss due to crop raiding by elephants. But what we see is large plantations in areas where they are attacked by elephants. This area, the management or the salaries of the staff involved in those areas are then supported by other areas that are not damaged by elephants. So because they have a lot of plantations, a lot of estates around. So the estates that are not affected by the conflict are supporting the areas that are affected by the conflict. So what my engagement with the stakeholders did in terms of the workshop, by recognizing that, by accepting that, I feel that is the bottom ground, that we all have to accept that elephants is going to be there, and if they're going to be there, what can we do next to try to manage the conflict to certain areas, hopefully, and then for those areas that are heavily affected, then we can think of other measures like alternative crops and all. Because otherwise everyone is thinking of, let's move the elephant out, let's move the elephant. Everyone is still harping on that. But in the workshop, what the stakeholders agree is, okay, elephant's going to be here, we are going to be here. What can we do together to move on? So I feel the damage is still there, but at least now we are in the position to work together to try to see how we can control the damage to certain areas. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay.